Hello again from my front porch, where it is a gloriously beautiful day here in the great state of Iowa, and we've actually had a couple of these now. It was roasty hot for their steamy, muggy hot, and then we got some rain, and then it was just sticky, icky after rain. Finally, it seems to have gotten nice. It's beautiful, sunny blue sky, birds are out chirping, and the grass is green. It's just beautiful, and of course, I'm spending most of it down in my office, down in the basement where I have hardly no windows, and I'm just in the dark. So I had to come out and see what the sunlight. But seriously, I did want to come and do a front porch episode because while I was doing my work, I'm working. I multitask a bit sometimes. Do a little laundry while I'm working, doing some other things. But one of the other things that I was going to do was to upload the most recent front porch episode that I had done, because I realized I hadn't uploaded it to the YouTube channel yet. And so I wanted to do that. But then when I started putting the information in about it to upload, I realized it had been a long time since I recorded it, and over a week. And so I'm like, well, I totally lost lots of other things going on. I totally lost track, and I need to get busy and do another one so that I can get this done and I can upload it with the other one, and it'll be right prompt today, and I'll feel so good about myself. Because, it's all about me. But seriously, there is a topic or a concept. The last one that I did from down in Texas after I got done with that meeting, and there was a concept, a term that was discussed there that really prompted me to want to talk about it. This is the same thing. When we had some webinar sessions that our company is paid for, that some outside individuals were facilitating for our folks, and as I was helping to manage those and not lead them, as I said, we had an outside facilitator, but I coordinated the details, logistics and stuff, and attended all of the sessions just to monitor, make sure what was going on. But in addition to that, I also keep my ears open for things that really are of interest to me. And there was a term, a concept brought up called sunk costs. Sunk costs. And that intrigued me, especially as the presenter unpacked it and started to describe what that meant. And I thought, wow. I mean, not only is it a really relevant concept, but it's like this phantom thing that shows up all over the place, and I never even knew it had a term. And I don't know, this term may be new, maybe just somebody came up with it recently, I don't know. But the fact is, now that I'm aware of this concept, it stands out to me all over the place that this is everywhere, and it always has been. And so I'm gonna share this with you too, see? Because I'm just that kind of friend. But the concept of sunk costs is that mentality that we have put so much into something that it creates an emotional bond, or in some cases bondage, that prevents us from altering course. We are so invested in whatever it is that we cannot do something else. We cannot go a different direction because we have sunk our costs into this. We've put all the chips on number 27 and we're just waiting for the wheel to stop there, because we've put everything on that. Everything. All our costs are sunk here. And so because of that, we have to have this succeed. Now, there were some, in the context of the training that happened, there were some workplace contexts that came up, but one of the examples that was given, and this is what really then started to fire the neurons in Paul's brain, was because, I love analogies. I love taking something and then going, oh, so that's like this, or like this, or like this. I love making those mental connections. And the speaker used gambling as one of the examples of this. It's a negative example, obviously, but use gambling as an example by saying that you have somebody who is a gambler, especially a gambling addict, but they don't necessarily have to be an addict. They just get caught up in it. But somebody who starts gambling and they win a little, they lose a little, they win a little, they lose a little, and then they lose a little more, and then they lose a little more, and they're on this losing streak, but something inside them is like, okay, oh, I should get away. I should step away from the table. I shouldn't stay here. I shouldn't keep doing this. But they can't, because in their head they're thinking, I have, they don't say lost. I've invested X amount of money, the money they've lost. I've invested this much money here. I have to see this through to recoup my money. They rationalize that to themselves. Now, they might win. They might win and they might get it back. That does happen. On the other hand, it is also more common that they'll just wind up losing even more. But something inside them triggered and said, whoa, stop, you need to step away. And they couldn't. They couldn't do it because of the sunk costs they had already put in there. That was, I thought, really interesting. And of course, immediately a lot of people say, oh, well, you're talking about the money pit mentality. Yes, exactly. That's another term for it. And my mind went there too. I think about the Tom Hanks movie. but whether it's a house or a car or whatever, but people that spend all this amount of money and they purchase something, they're fixing it up, they bought it for such and such reason, and then they realize it's not going to come to fruition, or they don't have enough money to see it all the way through, and there's a point where they have that same internal debate. Oh, wow, this I think I don't know if we can do this. We may have to pull out, may have to sell it off, may have to get rid of it, may have to just take our losses and get out. And a lot of people, a lot of sane, rational people, that's exactly what they would do. But the person who is captivated by the sunk costs, it's not just the amount of money they've put into it. It's a passion project. There's a lot of investment of money, but there's been investment of time. It's been a labor of love. They have invested so much of themselves that to walk away is heartbreaking, is difficult. They just can't bring themselves to do that. Yeah, you think about other examples that popped in my mind is like you go to a sporting game, a team that you love to watch, or for that matter, even a team you don't necessarily love to watch, but you bought tickets to go to the game, and especially if it's an expensive game. But it doesn't even matter if it's an expensive game. The tickets are cheap. Everything at the game is expensive, especially if you go with multiple people and are paying for what they're getting, like your family or whatever. But by the time you're halfway through the game, you've probably sunk a lot of money into this outing, this sporting event. And what happens when the team you're there to support is stinking that night, that they're doing bad, that they're losing horribly, embarrassingly? There are some people who will be like, well, you know what? Let's get going. Let's beat the traffic. Let's get out of here. And they would leave. And I've been to sporting events where I've seen that, where, long before the game's done, there's already mass exodus of people leaving. But then there are the diehards. They're the people who will stay no matter what. Now, you say, well, that's because they're the real fans. Yes, it could be that they're the real diehard fans. But there will also be those among the population that sticks it out to the bitter end, those who have the sunk cost mentality. They're sitting there thinking, we spent this much on the tickets, it costs us this much to drive here. If it's in another city, maybe you got a hotel that you stayed at, the food, all the stuff you bought there, you bought the items. We've spent hundreds of dollars, maybe more, to attend this sporting event. We are staying until it's done. and that's not a rational decision. It's a sunk cost. It's an emotional decision. I've become emotionally invested in the fact that I have spent so much and invested so much time as well that we are not going to leave until it's done because we're going to squeeze out every dime worth of our experience here. So you know, I mean, that is the way that, you know, I think of relationships too, and I want to be careful on this one because I mean, admittedly, I was married 27 years, and we knew each other for 2 years before that. We were in each other's lives for about 30 years. That's a long time. And even though it ended, and obviously, and you know, so I haven't really talked to her a whole lot in the last 10 years. Still, that doesn't mean that the 30 years we were together were all horrible, bad, awful. I mean, obviously, things went awry, and we wound up going our own separate ways. You know, and it, you know, that happens. But the whole relationship was not horrible. That whole 3 decades of time together, a lot of good memories, and a couple of wonderful, absolutely amazing kids that came out of that too. So I want to preface what I'm going to say, not just by my experience, but by a lot of people. I'm not trying to. This is not me necessarily relationship coaching. This is me just further drawing this sunk cost concept into a different analogy that maybe has a more personal direct hit. That there are times that we are in a relationship and we stay longer than we should. At some point earlier in that relationship, one or maybe both are starting to question, is this still a valid thing for us? Is this working for me? Is this the direction I want to go? And for whatever reason, and there's a variety of them, and I'm not going to dig into them because that's not the point of this video, we rationalize and we justify, the sunk cost mentality kicks in, and we have the emotional connections. We've invested our time, our energy, our heart. You know, we've built connections with other people in their world, and it makes that recognition that the dynamic between you and me, the two people in the relationship, isn't what it needs to be. But I'm going to justify sticking it out longer because of the sunk costs mentality. I'll just let that one sit with you for a moment. Again, I'm not trying to break up relationships. That's not what I'm not trying to do that here. I'm just saying this concept, this sunk costs mentality concept, is one that now that I'm aware of, it's like, I can see it everywhere. Here's one. Some of you will love this, some of you will hate it, and some of you will be like, oh, but Donald Trump, not politician Donald Trump, businessman Donald Trump. Was it back in the 80s, maybe in the 90s? It might have been more than 90s, I'm thinking. There was a whole lot of dust up about how Donald Trump was hitting up these major banks for major loans to keep his businesses afloat. Like massive amounts of money that he was asking them to pay out, and how a lot of business analysts said, you know, if it was anybody else, if it was almost anybody else, the banks would be like, no dice, buddy. No, this is a bad risk. No, this is not. But Donald Trump had built an empire at that point that was so big, that had its tentacles in so many different directions. It was so diversified that had his empire crumbled and collapsed at that point in time, the ripple effects would have been catastrophic. They would have been absolutely disastrous to a huge, not just his direct employees, but all of the ancillary businesses that depended on his employees and the checks that he was writing to charities and all this kind of stuff. All of that much big, broader world was so dependent on the Trump organization being successful that the banks that he was hitting up for big money recognized they had to practice the sunk cost mentality. They had to accept he was too big to let fail. Because if he went down, it would wipe out so many others. So they gave him the money. They loaned him money that they otherwise would not have done, simply because sunk cost mentality. man, there's so much already out here that we have to put in more because of what's already out here. See how this concept just stretches, applies to all over the place. And I find myself now evaluating, I mean, even the front porch. I'm not planning to, well, some of you probably be celebrating it, but some of you might not like it. But I debated, do I hang this up finally? It's coming up on 10 years that I've been doing this. Here in September, it'll be the 10th anniversary. We'll be launching into the 10th season of me doing this program. And is that the milestone? Is that the magic milestone that we say, this was fun, time to hang it up? I'm not saying that I will, but part of the reason that I was thinking about that here recently was because of this sunk cost mentality. It now has started to permeate my brain and has me reevaluating a lot of stuff in my life as to, okay, are there things I'm doing solely because I have a sunk cost mentality? Well, I have to keep doing this because of the investment. No, you don't have to keep doing anything you don't want to do. That's the truth. That's the reality. Now, there might be reasons that beyond just what you want to do, that there's other legitimate things. Again, I'm not trying to talk you into just, ditching everything and running away. But people at the midlife crisis stage just heard what I said. They went, yes, that's what I want right there. It's no. Do not say Paul told you to do that. No. But I find myself now evaluating things a lot more of, okay, why do I want to do that? Why do I participate in that? Why do I pursue that? Do I really want this, or is it a sunk cost mentality situation? I don't know what impact that's ultimately going to have on me in terms of changing anything that I do. It might prevent me from doing some things or getting into some things that I otherwise could have wandered into anyway. So there could be that benefit, but I challenge you with that too. Think about, just evaluate your own world, your own life, your own situations, your own connections with other people, your own involvements with things, whatever. I'm not saying change stuff. I'm not saying you have to dump stuff. I'm not telling you got to modify anything. I'm just saying, think about it. Evaluate the cost, the sunk cost mentality, and how it applies to you. And with that, I'll let y'all go, and I'll see you next time from my front porch.